Hello, everybody. This is Cayton coming to you from Millennium Games, largest board game store in the country. We're going to be opening up some play boosters of Murders at Karlov Manor, the newest Magic the Gathering expansion set. It's a whodunit murder mystery with a Ravnica backdrop, which is pretty exciting. There's some really cool stuff. We're going to get started right away, but before we do, I just want to show off some of the cool stuff that we're hoping to see from the set. Namely, new prints of lands. We have new dual lands. They all enter tapped. They have the land types and they surveil 1. Really sweet. These full art ones you can open in all your play boosters. Same thing with the Planeswalker of the set, which is Kaya Spirit's Justice this time. She, as well as all of these, are able to be opened as you go through. So we're hoping to see some of those. And it wouldn't be a Millennium Games stream for Magic opening if we didn't show off the best token in the set, which for this one is this adorable 1/1 dog. Look at this little dude. So we'll see what we can find. Really excited. We're going to get started right away. So first things first, crack open the box, and I'm just going to grab a huge handful of these. All right. So, 4th time at Ravnica. This time we are solely focused on a murder mystery. People have been murdered. Notable figures have had their lives taken, and some have had their lives threatened. So, we're going to go through and see what we can get out of them. Get some cool art cards and some nice list printings. So, we're just going to run through these real quick and get through our rares. So our list slot is Quintorius. He's from Strixhaven. Reprint of a card. Pretty cool. He's a nice little elephant guy. First mythic of the set, Delnay Streetwise Lookout. 2 and a white, 2/2. Creatures you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. And an ability of a creature you control with power 2 or less triggers. That ability triggers an additional time. White Weenie Enjoyers. Eat your heart out. Biggest excitement for me. Anything with 2 power or less, you just get its effect twice. So really fun commander. There's a lot of really good 2 power creatures in white. So we'll get to see more of this. If you're a commander player, it's going to make some waves. You'll definitely see more of that. So let's see. Next one, we have Doppelgang as our rare. And the play boosters are new. If you're a Magic follower, we've had draft, we've had set. Play boosters are basically those two combined together. You have a chance at getting more rares in it, but it's not guaranteed. But you do get cool stuff mixed in. So our rare for this booster is Doppelgang, which is a sorcery for blue, green, and then XXX. For each of X target permanents, you create X tokens that are copies of that permanent. So if X is 1, you pay 5, you get 1 copy of one thing. If X is 2, you get 2 copies of 2 things. So it's pretty cool. You just get to double up your board. It's a nice mana sink. Shaggy's in the chat. Hi, Shaggy. That's okay. Shaggy, give me sass. It's fine. I'm used to that. Let's see. We got a full art land. Monologue Tax is our list variant for the set. And Incinerator the Guilty is our big mythic. Let's see what else we get out of here. Some nice uncommons. This is the new border for the set. They're case files. So obviously it's a whodunit murder mystery. Film noir has taken some inspiration in here. So nice case files of your suspects. This unicorn, for example, is one of your suspects. They are pretty neat. They all have nice little flavor text on them. So this one currently defines its neighborhood as all of districts 8 and 9, extending lately into parts of the 10th. So it's just wandering around. But they all have fun little things for those. They're pretty neat. They look kind of cool. We'll get a bunch more of those as we go through. Reprint Monologue Tax. It's a pretty sweet card. Whenever your opponent casts their second spell each turn, you create a treasure token. Fun commander card for white decks. Big mythic new from the set, Incinerator of the Guilty. It's 6 mana, 6/6. It's 4 red, flying trample, so good body. Solid rate for a trample flyer for 6 mana. And then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may collect evidence X. When you do, Incinerator of the Guilty deals X damage to each creature and each planeswalker that player controls. So collect evidence is one of the new mechanics from the set. Essentially, when you do it, whatever the number is for the collect evidence, so for this version it's X, you exile cards from your graveyard until their total mana cost equals or is greater than the number. So if you have 4, you exile until you have mana cost 4 or greater from the exiled cards combined. This one you get to choose because X can be anything you want it to be, so you exile a total of 3 cards that add up to 7 mana value. You deal 7 damage to each creature and planeswalker the defending player controls. So it's pretty cool. It's definitely a neat mechanic. Goes really well with the previous set with its graveyard. And then the Art Deco lands they've chosen for this are really, really cool. I've got one of each of them here. So this is obviously the island, and then we have mountains, swamp, plains, and forest. They all have like one centerpiece in them. They kind of give you like almost a what's the MC Escher? Is that the artist? They give that feel to them. They are really cool. I'm excited to see some foil ones. I feel like especially the swamp would look really sweet with foiling. It's very shiny from our side, but like with foil, man, those are gonna look super cool. So hopefully we'll get some of those. But oh no. All right, they have all these on them now. You can continue to make fun of the way I open packs, Shaggy. It's okay. I understand. Gearbang Orangutan. Oh, so here's the new thing for this. So these are draftable sets, so they come with 15 cards in them to draft with, but you do have a chance at getting extra rares. So for example, this pack gave us a mythic and a normal rare. So similar to how the set boosters used to work, all the play boosters have a chance at extra rares. So for example, R2 this time are Deadly Cover-Up, which is a sorcery for 5. It's 3 black. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may collect evidence 6. So that would be exile cards from your graveyard that add up to CMC 6 or greater. Destroy all creatures, and then if evidence was collected, you exile a card from an opponent's graveyard and search the owner's graveyard hand library for any number of cards with the same name, exile them, and that player shuffles their library and draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. So a combination board wipe and necromentia effect to remove something from your opponent's entire deck. Really, really sweet card for like removing certain combo pieces. Could see some minor play in standard as like a sideboard piece. There is like an Atraxa Reanimator deck, so getting the Atraxa out is awesome. So there are like, I haven't seen how it's going to draft. It's the same process as before as I'm understanding it. So like, obviously you have like your token slot, your land slot, and then you get your rares. So my assumption is that it's just going to end up working the same way as normal draft does. I don't see how it would work any different. It's just that now you have a chance at getting more rares out of the pack. It makes sealed really interesting because having extra rares rather than just like the 6 that you would normally get, but like your draft is going to look wild depending on how many you get. From what I've seen, it's not like, do you draft the extra cards? Well, they're not extra in the same sense. Like they're extra, but it's like it's still 15 cards. So you get there's nothing new about it. It's still the same amount of cards from the draft. It's just now you have a chance of getting like another rare instead of an uncommon. So like your pack, you can open 2 rares instead of, it's still 15. It's just now instead of getting 1 rare, you can get 2 or maybe 3, which is like really weird, but also really cool. Speaking of rares, Kaya Spirit's Justice. There's a mythic we just pulled. So it's 2 white and a black for a 3 loyalty planeswalker Kaya. Whenever one or more creatures you control and or creatures in your graveyard are put into exile, you may choose a creature card from among them, and until end of turn, target token you control becomes a copy of it, except it has flying. You can +2 to surveil 2, then exile a card from a graveyard. +1, make a 1/1 white-black spirit token with flying, and then -2 to exile a target creature you control, and for each other player, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls. So very exile heavy. Your +2 is an easy graveyard filler. Exile card from a graveyard is really good because it triggers her effect as well as is just graveyard removal, which is always solid. +1 to make a flying token that feeds into your passive of making your token into a copy of something. And then the -2 to exile a creature you control to remove something from a player is really, really easy. Oh no, I -2 and get rid of my token I just made, and then I get rid of your best thing. Removal on a planeswalker, a body that can help block, and an effect that helps facilitate your graveyard plans is really, really good. This is a really sweet card. Every time I try these, like the pre like torn little tips they do it on the side, I never get it. I always rip off the corner. I'm really bad with them. So we've got a Thopter, a Mountain, foil Lightning Helix, super cool reprint. For me at least, I love Burn. It's one of my favorite strategies. So seeing a Lightning Helix reprint means that it's now legal for Pioneer. So that's super cool. Boros Burn all the way. We got 2 rares out of this pack, as well as some nice new stuff as well. There are new. I'm going to run through some of the other mechanics that they've added into the set as well. We saw the exiling one for evidence. So here's the other ones. So we have cases, which are a new enchantment subtype. They look very similar to sagas. They do not work the same way. So the way the case works is that you pay its cost, it enters. This one says when it enters battlefield, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it in your hand. So it's 2 mana, search for a basic land. To solve the case, so at the beginning of your end step, if you've fulfilled the condition to solve it, then you get the bonus. So for this one, if there are 5 colors among permanents you control at the end of your turn, then you've solved the case. So you now gain the solved effect to it. So which says at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains flying, double strike, and vigilance until end of turn. So if you have 5 permanents or 5 colors among permanents you control, your next turn you get a massive buff to creatures during your combat. These are pretty interesting. Some of them are way easier to fulfill than others. This one, in like limited, not so easy. Commander, this is like a super easy condition to fulfill. Oh wow, I played a 5-drop commander that costs 1 of each color. I did it. Really interesting. We'll look at a few more of these as we get to them. The other new mechanic is Disguise, which is basically Morph but better. So the way Disguise works is you pay 3 mana and you play this guy as a 2/2 creature with Ward 2, and at any point you can pay its cost for disguising it to flip it up. So for example, this guy has Disguise for Azorius, so at any point you can pay a white and a blue or a white and a blue to flip him face up. And they all usually have an effect of when they're turned face up. For example, when he's turned face up, you untap or tap target creature. So pretty cool. So in the middle of combat, you can play it as a combat trick. Before your opponent attacks, you flip him up and tap their best creature so they can attack with it, or vice versa. You swing with this before they go to blockers, you flip them up and tap their best blocker. It's neat. It makes Morph a little bit better. Not being able to be targeted because they have Ward 2 is really helpful. And it's nice. Astral Slide gets some new additions. I mean, it's cool. It's definitely neat to see. Face down buffs are like super weird because they haven't done a lot of stuff since like Tarkir was when they last did morphs. So seeing a new version of it's really fun. And then just a common we want to point out, adding to the rate of decks that you will not be able to buy enough of this common for. Yeah, the ward makes the actual flipping really easy, because now instead of being like, oh cool, my 2/2 dies to like every removal spell, no one's gonna pay 3 mana to shock your face down. And it adds a lot more interesting gameplay, because now you get to bluff a lot harder, because it's like, what's my 2/2? Is it a 3/3 on the other side, or is it like a 6/6? But it's pretty fun. This is the new any number in your deck Shadowborn Apostle-esque card from the set. It's called Slime Against Humanity, which is a good pun. 3 mana, 2 and a green, create a 0/0 green ooze token with trample. Put X 1/1 counters on it, where X is 2, plus the total number of cards you own in exile and in your graveyard that are oozes or are named Slime Against Humanity. So you get a 2/2 with trample no matter what. and it keeps growing and scales throughout the game. Even if you collect evidence on your stuff or exile it from your bin, you still get the effect because it cares about the ones you own in exile. It also cares about other oozes, which, ooze tribal, live your life. We've seen these before. It's probably going to be like a $2 common because people are just going to buy 30 of them. Same thing that happened with Dragon's Approach and Persistent Petitioners and all those other cards that you can play any number of. But it's funny. There's definitely commander decks out there that'll play them. I'm very looking forward to seeing the ooze tribal players rise up. As for our rares from that pack, we got a Swamp Mountain and Ruckus Theater, or Rousus. I can't speak English. Enters tapped, surveil 1, is a swamp, is a mountain. Fetchable land, anything that has the land types usually does really, really well, depending on like the format you're looking at. Easy staple for commander. Surveil 1 it's just a temple from like Theros block times like 2, because these are way better. Being able to fill your graveyard's way more useful than just scrying. Having the land types making it fetchable is really, really solid. Like, it even makes up for the fact that it enters tapped by just being able to fetch it. Our other rare from that is Azoni, Center of the Web. 4 black and a green for a 5/4 elf detective with menace. When she enters the battlefield or attacks, you may collect evidence 4, so exile cards that have combined mana value 4 or greater. If you do, create 2/2/1 black and green spider creature tokens with menace and reach, and then you can sack 4 tokens, surveil 2, draw 2, gain 2. Super cool. Once again, Golgari goes for filling their graveyard to literally no one's surprise. Gets to make spiders, so if you like spiders, it's fun. And then that effect of sacking 4 tokens. Surveil 2 fills your bin, draw 2. Everyone wants to draw. The gain 2 is just kind of extra tacked on there. That's super cool. And like, this card's just fun. Being a menace 5/4 is also pretty solid. Like, that's annoying to try to block, so that's pretty sweet. It is a cool commander. Super easy to just fill your bin in with Golgari, especially with all like the dredge cards and everything. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. All right. So we've got foil rare, 2 rares from the set, new mechanic that we're seeing, and then we got some of the new showcase frames that they're doing. So on top of the ones that look like case files, they also have these ones, which are like the magnifying glasses. So you're looking through and discovering parts of the story. This one is on the job, 4 mana, 2 and a white instant. Creatures you control get 2/1 until end of turn, and you investigate. Investigate is you make a clue token, which are these right here. This is one of the returning mechanics from the set on top of Surveil. So clues are artifact tokens. You can pay 2 and sacrifice them to draw a card. So really, really good to just get value in decks that normally have it, and it adds like extra depth because artifact tokens are really interesting. There's a lot of decks that care about sacking their artifacts or when artifacts enter or just the number you have. So like, it's fun to see Investigate back. It also is flavorfully perfect for this set. It's a whodunit murder mystery. You need to find the clues to solve the mystery. Other new mechanic from this set is Suspect. So Clandestine Meddler is 2 and a black for a 3/2 vampire rogue. When it enters the battlefield, suspect up to 1 other target creature you control. A suspected creature has menace and can't block. So it becomes a really good attacker with the loss of being able to defend yourself. So you're basically going all in on the aggro plan. And there's a few that suspect your stuff, and there's a few that suspect any creatures. You can suspect your opponent's stuff so they can't block you anymore. It's really neat. The menace is really notable because menace is really underrated when it comes to like how effective it is at getting through for free damage, because double blocking sucks. On top of that, the vampire also says whenever 1 or more suspected creatures you control attack, you surveil 1. So like, this is a sub theme that you'll see a lot with some of these cards. Is suspect is just going to give your aggro plan and then having any extra bonus on top of it. So surveilling 1 when you attack with a suspected creature is really good. We'll see more of these as we go through the set. As for our rares, we got a foil rare with Pyrotechnic Performer. 1 and a red for a 3/2 Viashano Assassin with Disguise for a red. So you pay 3, play it as 2/2, pay a red at any time to flip it up. When it or another creature you control is turned face up, that creature deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So when you pay a red to flip it up, you bolt everybody. It's pretty solid overall. Like a 3-2 for 2 is just an okay rate anyway. And then it also cares about when other things are flipped face up. So if you're like play a bunch of disguised things, you just keep flipping them up and getting through for free damage on top of just being a decent rate for like mana cost. So that's pretty fun. Our actual rare from the set that wasn't foil was Lost in the Maze, an enchantment for blue, and X flash. So you can play it at instant speed. When Lost in the Maze enters the battlefield, tap X target creatures, put a stun counter on each of those creatures you don't control, and then tapped creatures you control have hexproof. So you basically just tap down as many creatures as you want. Your stuff gets hexproof, so it's really good for helping against spot removal, keeping your stuff safe from just randomly getting removed. And then putting stun counters on each of your opponent's creatures prevents them from untapping for one turn. You remove the counter instead. It's really, really good for just end step before your opponent's turn. You flash this in, you pay 5, you tap their 3 best creatures, and then you swing and just kill them. It's a super cool card. It also prevents them from untapping the next turn, too. Red always gets the good stuff. Red does not always get the good stuff, but they have been on a kick lately. They've gotten some really cool things. They're doing fairly well in terms of like the standard stuff. Mono red aggro being a deck again after like a while of just everything is Shieldred because you can't get past it after turn 4. Like, I'm not going to complain about it. It is really cool. The Pyrotechnic Performer is really neat. There's an entire commander deck we'll get to later that cares about like flipping your stuff face up, so it's a cool idea for that. But the set's got some nice tools for every color. Red does have some burn spells as well in the set that are just going to add more to it. So we've got our next pack here. Island, foil, Sharp-Eyed Rookie is our rare. And let's see what else we get here. We got some nice draft stuff. Instant speed reanimate, suspect a creature on it doesn't add up here, so 5 mana, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield, suspect it, so you get your best creature back. Instant speed reanimation's always cool. I got some clue creatures in the set, so like red herring here is 1 red for a 2/2 haste clue fish. Has to attack each combat if able. You can pay 2 and sacrifice it to draw a card. Funny name, it's a fish, so it's a herring, and a red herring is, if you're anyone who likes murder mysteries, is a funny nod to those. And, 2/2 for 2 that has to attack but comes down attacking and draws later is pretty fun. Some more investigate stuff, some more surveil stuff. There's just a bunch of cool things that interact with your graveyard. You can see the disguise creatures are showing up here too. So a lot of commons with the disguise, but they all have effects of turning face up. So like the Gadget Technician here is 4 mana for a 3/2, which on a whole isn't a great rate, but when it enters, it comes with a 1/1 with flying, or when you turn it face up, it gets a 1/1 with flying, so you can sneak in damage, it gets an extra body. So this is how disguise really like pays off for itself. Anything that flips face up when it does it is really cool because it lets you get more advantage out of it, as on top of being able to bluff through things. Our rare for this pack was Sharp-Eyed Rookie. 1 and a green for a Human Detective 2/2 with Vigilance. When a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if its power is greater than the rookie's power or toughness is greater than his toughness, you put a 1/1 counter on him and you investigate. So you just play a 3/3, he gets bigger. You play a 4/4, he gets bigger. You play a 5/5, he gets bigger. Really, really cool for like limited. This thing just grows forever, and being able to investigate gives you card draw. So card advantage and a beefy creature that keeps getting bigger is really sweet on a really solid rate for 2 mana for 2/2 and Vigilance. Like that's just all upside. All right, so next pack, here we go. We get one of those cool full art swamps again. I love seeing these. Every time I open the pack and I see the full arts, it gets me really excited. These are really fun. I'm really happy with the arts for the lands for the set. Foil is Soul Search, which is a cool, essentially discard spell for it. You pay 2, look at your opponent's hand, take an online card from it, exile it, and if its value is 1 or less, you make a 1/1. So if you remove something small, you get a creature. If you remove something big, you just get rid of it forever. It's pretty fun. 10th District Hero is our rare for that set, for the pack there. And then we've got some pretty sweet cards. Split cards are back, as well as bringing back a bunch of mechanics like Surveil and the new not morph, but essentially morph mechanic. They also brought back split cards, which are really cool. We've seen them on Ravnica before, so it wouldn't feel like Ravnica without them. they're just like the older ones, so you can pick which one you want to cast. They all are, from what I could tell, they're all hybrids. So there's Fuss and Bother. So 2 in a red or white for Fuss. Instant speed, put a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature you control. And then Bother is 4 blue and a white for a sorcery. Create a 3/1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying, and you surveil 2. So you have one that's more aggressive, one that's more building up your board state. Both sides are pretty good, and the fact you can cast them for just white means that you don't have to be in specifically blue and red to play the spell, which is really neat. If you're in a draft pool and your red spells aren't really good, but your white spells are, this is really good because then it gives you bodies and power when you're attacking. Rare for the set, 10th District Hero. 1 in a white for a human 2/3. So solid rate for a vanilla. When you pay 1 in a white, you collect evidence 2. So exile cards from your graveyard with mana value 2 or more. He becomes a human detective with base power and toughness 4/4 and gains vigilance. So he just becomes a 4/4 with vigilance, which is really good. Vigilance is pretty solid as an offensive and defensive measure. 4/4 is a solid rate. Gets around a decent number of removal. And then afterward, you can pay 2 in a white, collect evidence 4. If he's a detective, he becomes a legendary creature named Mileva the Stalwart. Becomes a base power 5/5 and gives other creatures you control have indestructible. So you are one of your level up cards. We've seen these a ton in Magic, Figure of Destiny, all the level up cards from Zendikar block. They're super fun. They get a ton of them. Spirited Ascendant from Kaldheim's another one. So you pay your 2, you exile 2 cards, you exile stuff from your bin, it grows into a 4/4. Then you pay 3, you collect evidence 4, it becomes a 5/5 that protects your board from getting destroyed, which is really neat. It's just really solid overall. It's a cool rare. Big card I'm excited for as a person who plays a lot of Commander, Crime Novelist, a little lowly uncommon who's going to make some waves in the format a little bit. 2 in a red for a 1/3 Goblin Bard. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, put a 1/1 counter on Crime Novelist and add red. So every single treasure you've ever made adds 2 essentially for you if one of them's red mana. Little uncommon does a ton for the Commander format at least, which is really funny. Definitely excited to see him like randomly be like $4 as an uncommon. Also, he's a goblin, so he gets my full support as a little goblin guy. All right, so we're gonna start churning through packs. We've seen a bunch of the big stuff. Foil, it doesn't add up. Officious Interrogation is our rare for the set. For the pack here, we got some cool. There's a white reanimate spell, Sword Investigate stuff. Goblin Mashmaker makes your face down spells cost less, so you can make more creatures face down to play around with. Officious Interrogation, 1 in a white or a white and blue for an instant. This costs white and a blue for each target beyond the first that you cast it. Choose any number of target players. Investigate X times, where X is the total number of creatures those players control. So you can target yourself. You can also target your opponents, and you can keep paying more mana to do it more and more and more. This just makes a ton of clues, like really, really fast. A really easy way of just building up artifacts onto your board. Sack the clues later for value. If you have any effects that on enter, you do anything with artifacts, it's like really sweet. You can do some fun shenanigans with that for Commander. Foil, Slime Against Humanity. Blood Splatter Analysis and being our rare for that. I got some nice removal, collect evidence, some more of these the case file ones. These are really interesting. There's some that come in the collector boosters that have blacklight text on them. Murder. It wouldn't be Murders at Karlov Manor without murder. So we have the literal straight up card Murder, which is always, it's decent. It's removal. Blood Spatter Analysis, black and a red for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, deal 3 damage to target creature and opponent controls. So remove a creature, deal 3 damage, pretty good. Whenever one or more creatures die, mill a card and put a Bloodstain counter on Blood Splatter Analysis. Then sacrifice it if it has 5 or more counters on it. When you do, return creature card from your graveyard to your hand. It's okay. Definitely feels very limited, like a limited card. You remove a small creature, and then after a couple turns of killing your opponent's stuff, you get something good out of your graveyard. Seems decent. It's an okay rare. Removal built into it makes it pretty playable. It definitely feels like a limited draft card. Full Plains, make your move, relive the past is a rare for there. So you can see, like, a lot of people got really concerned when they heard about play boosters that you were going to get a bunch of rares in the draft and it was going to mess up the draft. But we've opened like 10 packs already. I think we've gotten 2 that have had more than 1 rare in them, which is not like very high. So I don't think it's going to affect it as much as people were concerned about. Relive the past, 5 green, white, sorcery, return up to 1 target artifact card, 1 target land card, 1 target non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard, and put them onto the battlefield. They become 5/5 elemental creatures in addition to their other types. 7 mana, put 15 power on the board. If you have all 3 of these things, is really funny. It's also just reanimate your 3 best enchantment, artifact, and lands from your bin, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of graveyard synergy with the set based on just how standard it is right now. Collect evidence, obviously. Surveil really fills your bin. All the stuff from the previous Ixalan set fills your bin. So it's cool seeing stuff like that. Niv Mizzix and Assemble the Players as rares for the set. As you can see, we've got some clue equipments in the set as well. So there's rope. Obviously, there's a clue tie-in with the set. So rope, lead pipe, those things have shown up. But they're all equipments of each color. That are showing up in there. They all can sack to add, as a clue, they draw a card. We got 2 rares in that pack. Assemble the Players, 1 in a white enchantment. You can look at the top of your library at any time. And once each turn, you may cast a creature spell with power 2 or less from the top of your library. Really cool. Being able to play stuff off the top of your library is really powerful. It's essentially card advantage for white that isn't drawing cards. And then it says each turn, so that implies your opponent's turn as well. So if you have a flash creature, like even Mind Sensor or White Mane Lion, you can just play it right off the top of your library in the middle of your opponent's turn, which is really cool. It also protects your stuff from like hand attack, which is notable and interesting because there is some discard stuff that always sees play in every format. But that's cool. Go in the white weenie deck really easily. Niv Mizzet, the Guild Pact. So we're on Niv Mizzet number 6. I think we're at 6 now. 1 of each color, so white, blue, black, red, green. He's the Wooburg. He is the Guild Pact. 6/6 legendary dragon avatar, flying, hexproof from multicolored, which makes him super good as a commander because it removes some of the best removal spells from targeting him. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, it deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards. You gain X life, where X is the number of different color pairs among permanents you control that are exactly 2 colors. So if you have a Boros card, a Golgari card, and a Rakdos card, you get to deal 3 damage, draw 3 cards, gain 3 life whenever he deals combat damage. It's pretty cool. It's definitely build roundy, but it's a fun commander. Hexproof from multicolor is interesting. Flying's makes him get through for damage. That effect is very like build around, so you can't just like throw him in a 5-color deck and hope for the best. You actually have to like try to put specific things in, which is cool. Niv Mizzet showing up again is really fun. We have enough Niv Mizzets now where you and your friends can all play Niv Mizzet at your commander table, and they'll all be exactly different decks from each other, which is hilarious. Full Art Mountain, Escape Tunnel, which is our new Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wilds S card. Tap, sack it, search for basic, put into play tapped, or you can tap it and sacrifice it to give target creature with power 2 or less unblockable for the turn, which is cool. Nice utility. Definitely would not play Evolving Wilds over this now because this is just strictly better. We've got 2 rares in that pack, as well as some nice removal cards, some more of the showcase ones with the lens on them for the story spotlights. Rares from the pack go to Undercity Sewers, which is the blue-black new dual land, enters tap, surveil 1, and then our other rare is Coveted Falcon. 1 blue for a artifact bird, 1/4 with flying. When it attacks, gain control of target permanent you own but don't control. Very specific ruling means that if your opponent has something that that they took from you, you can get it back. Disguise for 1 in a blue, so you flip him up for 1 in a blue after you've played him for 3 mana face down. And then whenever he's turned face up, target opponent gains control of any number of target permanents you control, and then you draw a card for each one they gained control of this way. So essentially, you swing him in, they don't block him, you flip him up, you give your opponent, let's say, 2 cards, you draw 2 cards, he deals damage, you take one of them back. Definitely feels interesting. I mean, if you have a friend who plays Commander and constantly plays like gain control of effects, this is just funny because you can take your stuff back from them. That isn't like Homeward Path. But that's definitely a unique card. Giving your opponent stuff usually not the best strategy, but if you're getting card draw out of it, you could get something good out of there. Ooh, foil full art. Oh, it's really hard to tell because of the glare that we're getting just from the lights, but it looks really cool. The foil full art lands do look really sweet. I'm happy to see that they are living up to my expectations, at least. They look really cool here. Rares. We got 2 rares from that pack there. One of them being the Boros dual land that we have in the set. The other one being Drag the Canal. Black-blue instant. Create 2/2 white-blue detective creature token, and if a creature died this turn, you gain 2, surveil 2, investigate. So, instant speed, make a 2/2. That's fine. If a creature died, though, you get to gain 2 life, surveil 2, and investigate. That's really, really good for instant speed. You get a body, and then you also get card advantage on top of it. So after your opponent, swings into your chump blocker, or they kill spell one of your creatures, you just get something out of it still, which is really good. Here's our detective token. He's a nice 2/2 with white and blue. Ooh, that is gorgeous. Sean's come in and he's dropped off foil full art of the new dual lands. This is Hedge Maze. It's the blue and green one. That looks really cool. The foiling is really nice. It really gives off the coloration of like the energy in the water in the background. That's really fun. Assassin's Trophy gets a reprint in this set. Notable solid removal card in Assassin's Trophy. Glad to see it get reprinted again. Black-green instant, destroy target permanent an opponent controls. Its controller searches for a basic land, puts it in the battlefield. So just get rid of your opponent's best thing, anything. They get a basic land for it. So it doesn't get better than that. That's just easy removal that you want to put in any black and green deck because it just gets rid of whatever threat you're worried about. We also got the Golgari dual land from the set, being Underground Mortuary. Ooh, nice goblin token. They gave him a very shiny bald head. I like him. Always a fan of a goblin. Rare from this pack being World Soul's Rage. Let's see what else we get. Some nice disguise cards, more face down support. There's your lead pipe here. We got some other clue support. There's a lot of stuff that cares about sacking your artifacts or blowing up artifacts, which, there's a bunch of investigating things, which makes perfect sense. World Soul's Rage, red and a green and X for sorcery. World Soul's Rage deals X damage to any target. Put up to X land cards from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. So you just completely fireball your opponent and then get all your lands that you've surveilled throughout the course of the game back. It's really cool. Definitely builds into itself as well, because if you play one of these, you get all the lands back, and then the next turn you just play another one with all the lands you just got back, and you end the game there. Any effect that's a fireball is funny, because there's just so many of them, and some of them are really good. Some of them, like that one's really solid. Played in Commander, get all your fetch lands back. Redo your entire board if you're in a landfall deck. That's pretty good. Next pack we have here, Unyielding Gatekeeper. That's our rare for the pack here. Frantic Scapegoat. It's just perfect artwork. Look at him, a little bugger. The set is really fun. Opening it up is always a blast. Unyielding Gatekeeper here. 1 and a white for a 3/2 Elephant Cleric. He's got Disguise for 1 and a white, so you can flip him over for 2 mana. When he is turned face up, exile another target non-land permanent. If you controlled it, return it to the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, its controller creates a 2/2 white-blue detective creature token. So flip him up in response to removal. You exile one of your other things to protect it. If it's or you can target your opponent's stuff and just get rid of it permanently. It gives them a 2/2 in exchange. Most of the time, if you're getting rid of your opponent's thing, the 2/2 you're giving them is insignificant in comparison to whatever you're getting rid of. And especially because it's any non-land permanent, so you can get rid of enchantments, artifacts, planeswalkers. Paying 2 mana to flip over and exile an opponent's planeswalker and giving them a 2/2 is really funny. Definitely a cool card. Full Art Island, another case. So we're gonna do those ones because those are the cool ones. We got 2 of those cases in the same pack, but we're gonna look at the foil one because let's face it, foils are better when it comes to showing off. Case of the Burning Masks. 1 red. When it enters the battlefield, deal 3 damage to target creature an opponent controls. So enter the battlefield, bolt a target. Just solid removal. To solve it, 3 or more sources you controlled have dealt damage this turn. That's really, really easy for red to do. There's so many just 1 mana 1/1s with haste and then burn spells. You just go in aggro. When you solve the case, you sacrifice it, exile the top 3 cards of your library, choose one of them, and you may play that card this turn. So it becomes pseudo card advantage for you. So you swing in, you do your aggro red thing, you hit them with your 2 1/1s in a shock, and then next turn, oh, I need a bit more damage. I sack this because I've solved it, and I look at the top 3. I take my burn spell out from there, and I finish off the damage. We have the single weirdest mana cost I've ever seen, and I love and hate it so much. Leyline of the Guild Pact is hybrid Selesnya, hybrid Simic, hybrid Golgari, hybrid Gruul. So you can play it for either 4 green mana or any other combination of whatever you really want, which is really weird to look at. It is a Leyline, so it's an enchantment that if you have it at your opening hand before the game starts, you can put it into play for free. Each non-land permanent you control is all colors, and lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. Super easy fixing. If you're in a 5-color commander deck, why wouldn't you play this? This is the easiest mana fixing you'll ever get for a basic rare that isn't probably going to cost too much. Super cool for domain decks because now I can leyline you on turn 1 by just having this and 1 land, which is really frustrating for your opponent, but really funny for you. All right, next pack we have here, Insidious Roots. So the foil one for the showcases really shows off. You can see the coloration of like the leaves and everything as it swirls around. They did a really good job with the foiling and where they're putting the foiling on these. They look really sweet. Rare from the pack, Case of the Locked Hothouse. And then we got Candlestick, some more face down support, Insidious Roots, more burn spells. There's a ton of commons and uncommons. I really highly recommend if you are someone who wants to play limited, this set seems really fun and interesting for it, especially with like the ability to use your graveyard so actively, and the disguising makes the set feel like it's going to have a really interesting pool for limited and draft. Case of the Locked Hothouse here is 3 and a green for a case enchantment. When you play when he enters, you get the effect of you may play an additional land on each of your turns. So every turn you get an extra land drop. So it's Explore for 4 mana, which is fine. Extra land drops are always good because it puts you a turn ahead of your opponent. To solve it, if you control 7 or more lands, which is probably the easiest one we've seen to resolve so far, just having 7 lands is just making your land drops for this one not as much. It makes it way easier because you get extra lands. When you've solved the case, you can look at the top card of your library anytime, and you may pay land and cast creature and enchantment spells from the top of your library. So super easy to solve. Really, really good if you've solved it. You can essentially get 2 lands off the top of your library every turn because you still get the ability to play your extra lands from this, and you get to cast creatures, and you get to cast enchantments. You just go to town on this super easily. You just get to play everything off the top of your library, essentially, if you build your deck correctly, which lets you just get free advantage. Any kind of advantage like that lets you just get a ton off the top for that is super good. All right, next pack we have here, Yaris Roar of the Old Gods and Hedge Maze as the rares. We have another case card with Case of the Filched Falcon. Blue mana, when it enters, investigate. If you control 3 more artifacts, you've solved the case. Pay 2 and a blue, sacrifice this case, put 4 1/1 counters on a non-creature artifact. It becomes a 0/0 bird token with flying and is a creature in addition to its other types. So you get 3 clues when you get this. You solve it. You pay 3, sack this, and put 4 warning counters on one of those clues and make it a 4/4 flyer. Pretty easy to do. Pretty good payoff for just having a bunch of artifacts, especially in a set that's got, clues galore everywhere. We got Simic dual land from the set being Hedge Maze here, as well as Yaris, Rar of the Old Gods. 2 red and green, legendary creature, Centaur Druid, 4/4. Other creatures you control have haste. So he doesn't count himself, but every other creature does. Whenever one or more face-down creatures you control deal damage, combat damage to a player, draw a card. So whenever any of your morphs, your manifested creatures, anything like that, deal combat damage to your opponent, you draw. And then whenever a face-down creature you control dies, return to the battlefield face-down under its owner's control if it's a permanent card, and then flip it face-up. So you just protect your board if it's all morphed creatures from being board wiped, which is really cool. Anytime they die, you just bring them right back and then flip them up. So you get their flip-up effects too, which there's some really old, really big creatures you can just flip up randomly. There's like a 12/12 that from a long time ago that if you kill that thing and your opponent just goes, oh, cool, here you go. It's a 12/12. Thanks for, I paid 3 for it. You just gave it to me for free. That's gotta suck. But like, it's cool. Definitely fun for Commander. We'll see more. We'll talk more about those ones when we talk about the Commander decks. Ooh, that was clean. That was the cleanest one I've done all day. Burden of Guilt. That's our list card that's taken up one of our slots here. Reprint from Dark Ascension. Foil Underground Mortuary. That's pretty sweet. Case of the Ransacked Lab. This is our other rare from this pack. Case of the Ransacked Lab. 2 and a blue. Instants and sorceries you cast cost 1 less to cast. So nice mana reduction for your instants and sorceries for any Spellslinger deck. To solve it, if you've cast 4 or more instants and sorcery spells this turn, not the easiest thing to do, but the cost reduction makes it pretty, makes it a lot easier. And then when you've solved the case, whenever you cast instant sorcery, draw a card. So really good for a Storm deck if you're playing that. Commander decks, eat your heart out. Old Niv Mizzets, any blue-red deck that's going to want to Storm off is really going to like this. Being able to get a draw every time you cast instant sorcery is good. 3 mana is not too bad for cost reduction. Overall, cool card. The cases are really interesting. Some of them do feel really a little underwhelming, and then others like that one feel like it's not made for draft, but man, that's gonna be a powerhouse in some constructed format. Probably Commander, but like everything's kind of playable in Commander. We got the dog token. Yes, now I have 2. I'm gonna put them next to each other because this is the highlight of my day, is just getting dog tokens. Full Art Swamp, Fugitive Codebreaker, and Doorkeeper Thrall as our rares for that pack. No More Lies, a new counter spell. Blue and white counter target spell unless the controller pays 3. If the card is countered, exile it instead of putting it in the graveyard. Really, really cool. Blue-white control decks will like this. It's a mana leak that gets rid of the card for good, which is really solid. A little more prohibitive on the cost because it costs blue and white, but you do get to just get rid of the thing, which is really solid. On top of that, we've gotten our 2 rares we can look at here. Doorkeeper Thrall, 1 and a white for a 1/2 Thrall. Flash, flying, artifacts, and creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. So another just white hate bear in the long line of white hate bears. Having flash is really good. Stops your opponent's big dumb creatures from entering and getting their effects off. Someone's gonna get got when they play this, and I'm sure there's someone in Standard who's gonna try to play their Atraxa and gets entirely stifled out by this stupid thing, which is just funny to me. It's any hate bear effects they keep printing, very few and far between, but seeing them come in, especially ones like this where it's just super easy, 2 mana to just completely stifle out an entire player's big move, is really fun. Fugitive Codebreaker is our other rare, 1 and a red for a 2/1 Goblin Rogue, Prowess, Haste. So 2 mana 2/1 with Prowess and Haste is pretty good. It has Disguise for 5 and a red, so 6 mana to flip it over, but it costs 1 less for each instant sorcery card in your graveyard. So if you have 5 instant sorceries in your bin, it only costs 1 red to flip. And when it's turn face up, you discard your hand and draw 3 cards. So it is essentially, if you remember Kaladesh block, it's like Bomat Courier almost. It's a small red creature that gives you card advantage later in the game to help you finish through. A 2/1 for Prowess Haste, pretty good. Just pay a bunch of small red spells, very similar to like Monastery Swift Spear, but in reverse. But then the effect to draw cards, pretty solid. We've been me and some of the people here have been tinkering around with like maybe there's a burn deck in Standard now because you have Swift Spear and Lightning Helix and Shock and all these other like fairly cheap red direct damage spells. This is like something that I probably would try in there. Card advantage and prowess means it's pretty good for there, but we'll have to wait and see if that makes any waves or not. All right, so we're gonna do a few more packs and we're gonna show off the commander decks. Rare from the pack, Vanifar. We got 2 rares and they're both legendary creatures, so we'll go over them really quickly. Aurelia, the Law Above. 3 red, white, legendary creature, angel, 4/4, flying, vigilance, haste. So a bunch of keywords that are all really good to see. Whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. So it's any player attacking with a bunch of creatures. So even if their opponent is attacking you, you get to draw if they have 3 or more creatures attacking. And whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, Aurelia deals 3 damage to each of your opponents and you gain 3 life. So if someone swings with 5, you Lightning Helix everybody. It's pretty cool. Boros being on the attacking plan is not anything new. Boros caring about everyone attacking, a little new, pretty cool. Once again, we'll talk about this with like the commander deck that we have to show off. This one's really good for those if you're looking for like an easy upgrade path for that. Vanifar, Evolved Enigma, 2 green, white, green and a blue, 3/4 Elf Ooze Wizard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose one. You either put a 1/1 counter on each colorless creature you control, or you cloak a card from your hand. So they redid Morph with the disguise mechanic. This is essentially redone Manifest from Khan's block. So you exile the top card of your library face down you play it face down as a 2/2 creature. It also has Ward 2, and if it's a creature card, you can pay its mana cost at any time to flip it up. So it's another version of Morph, essentially. You get to get another 2/2 creature, and then you can use it later. Manifest and Cloak here specifically take from the top of the library, so it's a little less control over it, and you can only flip it up if it's a creature. But I mean, it's another effect that just adds into like the bluffing of what makes that mechanic really good. And the other effect of at the beginning of combat putting a 1/1 counter on each of your colorless creatures. Morphs and Manifest, disguised and cloaked cards are all colorless creatures, so you just get to put a 1/1 counter on all your ones that are face down, which is cool. So next back here, we have Alquist Proft, Master Sleuth, and Thundering Falls is our rares for the pack there. We have another split card here being Flotsam and Jetsam, which is your Simic and Demiurge cards. 1 and green or a blue. Instant mill 3, investigate. Fill your graveyard easy. Pretty solid card. Jetsam is 4 blue, black, blue, black. Sorcery, each opponent mills 3 cards. Then you may cast a spell from each opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost, and if the spell would be put into the graveyard that way, you exile it. Really easy to just go, oh, cool, here we go. I take your best stuff out of your bin for every opponent. Really cool commander card. Rare from the pack, Alquist Proft, Master Sleuth. He is our Sherlock Holmes-esque Columbo monk figure. He's the guy who's trying to solve the crime. 1 white blue, human detective, vigilance, 3/3. When he enters the battlefield, investigate, pay X white, blue, blue, tap, sack a clue, draw X cards, gain X life. So he Sphinx's Revelations for tapping and sacking a clue. Sphinx's Revelation is just a good card. This having to sack a clue and tapping him is like if you're built it right for him, you're gonna be making a bunch of clues anyway. Cool commander card. Anything that lets you draw a bunch of cards, gain a bunch of life is always interesting. So we're gonna go and take a break from the packs. We're gonna show off the commander decks real fast because we only have about 10 minutes left. So there's 4 commander decks that have come out with this set. They are all built around one of the themes that have come into play with this new set. So we're gonna start off with the Naya one here, which is Deadly Disguise. Red, white, green, so you're in Naya, so you can only play spells that are in those colors. Your entire commander's game plan is face-down cards. So I'm going to open this real fast, and we're just going to go over the commanders specifically and just give you a rundown on how those are going to play. So for this deck, your commander is a nice, easy casting cost of green and then hybrid red or white for a 2/2 Dryad Detective. Whenever a creature you control that was turned face up this turn deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, and then tap it to turn a target face down attacking creature you control face up. So you literally just free roll into your face down creatures, you swing in, you wait for your opponent to go no blocks, you tap it, you flip them face up. There's a bunch of big morphs that cost like a ton to flip up. There's like a 12/12, there's a 9/9, there's a bunch of other ones from Tarkir block. This is just an easy way of getting them face up. Super easy game plan to just play a bunch of morphed creatures, swing in, bluff your opponent. The minute that they don't block the wrong one, you flip it up and just deal a ton of damage, draw a bunch of cards. That's really cool. We have the Boros one, which is called Blame Game, which, as you can probably tell, is all about making your opponents blame each other, which, if that's not a game of Commander, I don't know what is. So your commander for this one is Nelly Borka, Impulsive Accuser, 2 red-white for a legendary human detective 2/4. Vigilance, whenever Nelly Borka, Impulsive Accuser, attacks suspect target creature, then goad all suspected creatures. So target a creature, it gains menace, it can't block anymore, and then you goad them, so it has to attack each turn if able, and it has to attack someone that's not you if able. Whenever one or more creatures an opponent controls deals combat damage to one or more of your opponents, you and the controller of those creatures each draw a card. So the entire game plan is goading your opponent's stuff, suspecting your opponent's stuff, force your opponents to beat each other up, as well as you also beating them up. Everyone is now full swinging at each other. We're aggroing each other. Really interesting. There's a bunch of goad cards that have come out in the game. This is going to fit right in with those. Red-white, once again, attacking's not new, but now everyone's attacking, so everyone's red-white in your eyes. We have our nice Dimir one, which is our blue-black deck. It is called Revenant Recon, and if I can open the box enough to actually get it out. So whole deck is built around the Surveil mechanic. You get Mirko, Obsessive Theorist, as your commander for this one. He is a 3-mana Vampire Detective 1/3, Flying and Vigilance. Whenever you surveil, put a 1/1 counter on Mirko, Obsessive Theorist. So every time you surveil, he just keeps growing and growing and growing. Notably, Wizards errated a bunch of older cards like Sorceress Kanta and Consider to say surveil on them now. So there's a lot more cards that say surveil than you'd think. So every time you surveil, you get a 1/1 counter on him. He just keeps growing. And then, as a payoff, at the beginning of your end step, you can return a creature card with power less than Mirko's from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. So Mirko grows and grows and grows. You're surveilling cards into your bin. You finally, at the end of your turn, if you have a creature that is smaller than Mirko, you reanimate it with a finality counter. Finality counters say if the creature would leave the battlefield, it gets exiled. So it doesn't get to come back repeatedly over and over again. But Mirko's super cool. A surveil payoff that also can just randomly commander damage people out. It's really interesting, and he's in the perfect colors for it. Blue and black are the original surveil colors for Ravnica, and him being there is perfect for him. Super easy reanimation shell, or you can go full in on like the surveil plan. There's a lot of cards that care about surveilling that are like, whenever you surveil, put a 1/1 counter on me, like Dimir Spybug, or so like really easy choice. You can either upgrade into a full reanimator package, or just I'm playing every surveil card because I like them, including the really old ones and the new errated ones. All right, and then the last one we have for the commander decks is the white, green, and blue one. It's called Deep Clue C, which is Wizards and their puns, not surprising. So it is obviously blue, green, and white. Morska, Undersea Sleuth, 2/3, Vidalcan Fish Detective. You have no max hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, investigate, so you make a clue. And whenever you draw your second card each turn, put 2 1/1 counters onto Morska, Undersea Sleuth. Very basic, just make clues, sack clues, draw cards. No max hand size thing is helpful. You're going to be drawing a ton of cards. There's a bunch of effects that are like easy draw 2, discard 2 effects. Or you can just really lean deep into like the clue plan of all the investigate cards and just keep sacking the clues to draw. Very like easy in the sense that it's very general, that you can just kind of build around either effect. Either you can focus on making artifacts with the clues or just drawing cards. But those are the 4 commander decks. We will have all of these for sale here at Millennium Games. Come on pre-release for them. We also are trying out, if you have any ideas for these decks, we'd love to hear them. They're really cool all around, especially I'm a big fan of these two right here. Surveil's a really fun mechanic, and Morph is really, really interesting to just see it come back after so long. But yeah, the set's really fun. If you're interested in playing it, please come down for pre-release this coming Friday, the 2nd. Play boosters, I know some people are scared of them. I honestly think that they're perfectly fine. They don't seem to be influencing it that much. Honestly, most of the time when I got extra rares, it was another land, which, yeah, sometimes that matters, but not a whole lot. But the set looks super cool. We're really, really hyped for it over here. We'll have a bunch of singles and stuff for sale. We'll have packs. We'll have boxes. If you are interested at all, please come down on Friday for pre-release or make it there for Saturday or Sunday for our Two-Headed Giant event. We are really excited. New year, new Magic set, always a blast. And if you're someone who just likes Commander, we've got Commander too, and we've got the Commander decks, and even the secondary legends that are in the packs. We look through everything. It looks really fun. There's a lot of fun build arounds, a lot of interesting things you can do. But I mean, I've had a blast. I love opening packs. This is the best part of my day, is getting to open up packs for fun and get paid for it, which is nice. But seriously, the new set looks super cool. Morph being back is fun. Surveil being back is fun. All the new mechanics look really interesting. Standard has been in a good spot from now after the last couple sets have come out. They've definitely shifted around. Big graveyard focus makes for interesting gameplay because it means you have even more resources to choose from, which I'm always happy to see. But I think we're just about done for right now. Thanks for coming, everyone. Really appreciated it. I'll see you during the next set opening. If you want to come down and play, we are always open to play some games. I'm usually here to play, so if you see me around, say hi. But yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. We'll see you next time we have a nice new release in a couple months.